The night sky burned with the smoke of fallen ships. The stars were hidden behind black clouds that carried the smell of fire and ash. On the ground, ruins stretched for miles, broken homes, shattered towers, and the bodies of those who could not escape. The war had left nothing alive in this place, nothing except silence and sorrow. Through the ruins moved a small figure. She was young, no more than a child, her skin pale and marked with dust. Her long hair was tangled, her clothes torn and thin against the cold wind. Her steps were weak, each one slower than the last. She had no food, no water, no family. Everything had been taken from her in one night. Her name was forgotten in the noise of war, but in her heart she remembered. She whispered it to herself as if it would keep her alive. Yet her voice was shaking, and even she began to wonder if speaking her name mattered when no one was left to hear it. Shadows moved in the ruins. Scavengers searched for metal, weapons, anything they could steal. They saw her sometimes, and their hungry eyes followed her. But she hid behind stones, crawled under broken walls, and escaped. Still, she knew her luck would not last forever. One day they would catch her. One day she would be nothing more than another lost body in the ashes. Her stomach growled. She had not eaten for 2 days. Her throat was dry, her lips cracked. She wanted to cry, but her tears had dried with the smoke. She sat on the edge of a fallen pillar, her body trembling, her eyes staring at the dead city around her. And then she heard the sound, heavy boots on the ground. Not scavengers, different, stronger, steadier. She froze, her heart racing. The war had taught her one thing. Humans were dangerous. They had fire in their weapons, steel in their voices, and death in their hands. Her people had told stories of humans, stories of destruction and cruelty. She remembered those stories, and she was afraid. The sound grew closer. She pressed herself against the stone, her breath sharp in her chest. A shadow appeared between the smoke, tall and broad. The figure stepped into the broken light, and she saw him, a human soldier. His armor was heavy and scarred, his helmet marked with battle. His weapon hung at his side, glowing faintly with power. His face was tired, lined with the weight of war, but his eyes were sharp and searching. He was not here to scavenge. He was here for something else. The girl's first thought was to run. Her legs wanted to move, but her body was too weak. She tried to sink deeper into the shadows, but his gaze found her. His eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, the world grew still. He stepped closer. She pushed herself back against the stone, her hands shaking, her voice breaking into a small cry. "Stay away." The soldier stopped. He did not raise his weapon. He did not shout. He only looked at her, his face unreadable behind the dirt and blood. She expected him to strike, to take her life without a word. But instead he reached into his pack and pulled something out. A small package of food. He placed it on the ground in front of him and stepped back. The girl stared at it, her stomach twisting with hunger. Her mind screamed that it was a trick, that humans were cruel, that he would kill her the moment she moved. But the smell of food was too strong, too real. Slowly, her hands reached out. She grabbed the package and tore it open, her teeth sinking into the soft bread inside. The soldier watched in silence. She ate quickly, almost choking, afraid it would vanish if she did not swallow fast enough. When the food was gone, she wiped her mouth with her sleeve and looked at him again. Her eyes were still wide with fear, but now there was something else. Confusion. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice was small, broken. "Why give me this?" The soldier did not answer right away. His gaze dropped to the ground, then rose back to her. His voice was low, steady. "Because you were hungry." Simple words, but they struck her harder than any weapon. No one had given her kindness since the night the war began. No one had offered her anything but fear. She wanted to speak again, but her throat closed. She wanted to ask if he was lying, if he would take the food back, if he would hurt her. But his eyes did not carry hate. They carried something she had never expected to see in a human. Mercy. The soldier turned as if ready to leave, but when he saw her shiver against the cold, he paused. He removed his cloak, rough and heavy with dust, and placed it beside her. He did not force it onto her shoulders. He only left it there, another choice for her to make. The girl stared at the cloak, her small fingers brushing the edge of the fabric. It was warm, safe, human. For a long time, she did not move. Then, slowly, she pulled it around her thin body. When she looked up, the soldier was still there. His weapon hung silent, his stance calm. For the first time since the war began, she felt a small spark of something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. She did not know if this man was her savior, or another danger waiting to strike. She did not know if his kindness was real or a mask. But one truth stood clear in her heart. He had given when he could have taken, and in the ruins of her broken world, that kindness was the first step toward a fate she could not yet imagine. Morning after the soldier gave food and his cloak, the girl woke to the sound of voices. Human voices. They were close, sharp, and angry. She froze, clutching the cloak tighter around her small body. She was not alone anymore. From behind a ruined wall, she saw them, 3 more human soldiers in full armor. They stood with weapons ready, their eyes fixed on her. Fear cut through her chest like ice. She wanted to run, but her legs were too weak. Then she saw him, the same human who had given her food the night before. He stepped out from the smoke, his weapon at his side, his face unreadable. The others turned on him at once. "What is this?" one shouted. "You brought an alien into our camp. Are you mad?" "She is a child," the soldier replied calmly. "She is not one of us," another hissed. "She is enemy blood. Enemy blood grows into enemy fire. If we leave her alive, she will strike us later." The girl's heart pounded. Their words were sharp, filled with the same hatred she had known since the war began. Her people had told her humans were cruel, and now she saw it again. All except him. The soldier stood firm. "She was starving. I gave her food." The others laughed bitterly. "And what will you give her next? Our weapons? Our camp? She will betray us the moment she can." The girl looked at the ground. She wanted to cry, to scream, but no sound left her lips. She could not defend herself. She had nothing but the cloak he gave her, and the memory of kindness that now seemed fragile against the anger of his companions. The soldier did not move. His voice stayed steady. "I will protect her." The other soldiers stared at him in shock. "Protect her? Against us? Against your own people?" "If I must," he said. His hand rested near his weapon, not in threat, but in warning. "I will not let you harm her." The silence that followed was heavy. The other humans looked at each other, their anger turning into disbelief. One spat on the ground and turned away. "You are a fool, a soft fool. She will be the death of you." But none of them struck. They left, muttering curses, their footsteps fading into the ruins. The girl stared at the soldier, her wide eyes filled with confusion. No one had ever stood for her before. No one had ever raised their voice against. "Their own kind for her sake. Why?" she whispered again. Her voice shook, but this time not only with fear. "Why protect me?" The soldier looked at her for a long moment. His face was tired, but his eyes were steady. "Because no one should be left with nothing. Not even you." Her breath caught in her chest. She clutched the cloak tighter, as if it was proof that his words were real. A small warmth spread inside her, fighting against the cold of the ruins. That night he led her into his camp. The other humans watched with hard eyes. Some turned their backs, others muttered under their breath, but none challenged him directly. His presence was enough to silence their anger, for now. The girl sat near the fire, the cloak wrapped around her small frame. She could feel the stares burning into her, heavy with distrust. But when she looked at him, the one who had chosen her over his own people, she felt a strange strength. He gave her more food, water, and a place near the fire. She ate in silence, her hands trembling. She did not know if she was safe. She did not know if she could ever be safe. But she knew this. He had chosen her. And in a galaxy that had taken everything, that choice meant more than words could say. Later, that night when the others slept, she whispered to herself. Her voice was quiet, carried only by the fire's glow. Maybe. Not all humans are the same. The soldier sitting nearby did not speak, but he heard her. And though he showed no smile, his eyes softened for the first time in many days. He had made his choice. He would protect her, no matter the cost. And deep inside, he knew that choice would change both their fates forever. The days that followed were heavy with silence. The girl stayed close to the fire, wrapped in the cloak the soldier had given her, but the stares of the other humans never left her. Their eyes were sharp, their whispers cold. She could feel their hatred in every step they took around her. She ate what little food the soldier gave her. She drank water from the same cups the others used, though some turned away in disgust when she touched them. She kept her head down, her voice quiet. She feared that one wrong move would bring their blades upon her. But the soldier never turned away. He shared his rations, guarded her when she slept, and spoke words that were simple but steady. When she woke from nightmares, he was there. His calm presence stronger than the fire, yet fear still lingered in her heart. She remembered the burning of her village, the screams of her people, the fire in the sky brought by human ships. She remembered the stories her elders had told. Humans destroy, humans take, humans show no mercy. How could she trust him when her blood carried so many scars? One night she sat alone, staring at the flames. The soldier sat a short distance away, polishing his weapon in silence. At last, she found the courage to speak. "Why do your people hate me?" she asked, her voice soft, almost broken. The soldier paused. His hand rested on the weapon, but his eyes turned to her. "Because they fear you," he said simply. "Fear me." She looked at her thin arms, her small frame. She was nothing but a starving child. "I am weak." "They do not see weakness," he answered. "They see an enemy, and fear makes enemies larger than they are." She fell silent. His words made little sense to her, yet there was something honest in them, something that felt real. Later that night, when the camp grew quiet, the soldier brought her something new. A piece of cloth, rough but clean, and a stick with markings burned into it. He placed them before her. "What is this?" she asked. "Letters," he said. "Human words. If you stay here, you should know them." She frowned, uncertain. "Why teach me?" "Because knowledge is stronger than fear," he said. And so, under the dim glow of the fire, he began to teach her. He traced letters on the cloth, his voice steady, his hands patient. She struggled, her fingers clumsy, but he did not grow angry. When she made mistakes, he only guided her again. Each night, while the others whispered about betrayal, the soldier and the girl worked together in silence. Slowly, she began to shape the letters, to speak the simple sounds. With each word, her fear grew lighter, replaced by a strange feeling she had never known before. Trust. But the shadows of danger never left. Scouts had been seen near the ruins. Enemy raiders searched the land, killing survivors and hunting for anything of value. The humans in the camp spoke of leaving, of moving to safer ground. Yet the girl knew that wherever they went, danger would follow. One evening, as the sun sank, behind the broken horizon, the soldier returned from patrol with blood on his armor. The sight froze her. She rushed forward, forgetting her fear, forgetting her silence. "You are hurt!" she cried. He shook his head. "Not mine. Others. We found raiders near the valley." Her chest tightened. She had seen raiders before. They killed without mercy, taking what little remained from the broken. She looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. "They will come here." He met her gaze. His voice was calm, unshaken. "Yes, and if they come, we will fight." The word "we" echoed in her ears. For a moment, she felt something she had not felt in many days. She was not alone, but that night, when she tried to sleep, fear still crept into her heart. She lay awake under the cloak, staring at the stars through the gaps in the ruins. Could she truly trust this human? Would he still protect her if it cost him his life? Or would he, like so many before, turn his back when the danger grew too great? Her thoughts spun in circles, but when her eyes drifted toward him, sitting at the edge of the fire with his weapon across his knees, she saw no fear in him, only resolve. The next morning, the camp stirred with unease. Scouts had seen the enemy drawing closer. Weapons were prepared, defenses set. The other humans whispered that the girl was a curse, that her presence had brought the danger. Some looked at her as if they wished to end her themselves before the raiders arrived. But the soldier's voice cut through them all. "If she dies under my shield. No one touches her." The words silenced them, but the hatred in their eyes did not fade. The girl felt the weight of his choice more than ever. She wanted to trust him, but trust was a heavy chain, one that could either save her or break her. That night, when the campfire burned low, she whispered into the dark. Her words were soft, but they carried a new strength. "If danger comes, I will not run. I will stand beside you." The soldier turned, his eyes catching the faint light. He gave a slow nod. No words were needed. The bond between them had begun to change. Fear was still there, but now trust walked beside it. And in the shadows of the forest, the enemy drew closer, ready to test that bond with fire and blood. The night came heavy and dark. Clouds covered the stars, and the only light came from the weak flames of the human campfire. The girl sat close to the soldier, her small hands gripping the cloak tight around her. Every shadow outside the camp felt alive. Every sound of the wind made her heart beat faster. She knew the enemy was near. The soldiers were restless. They sharpened blades, checked weapons, and whispered to one another. Their eyes still carried the same hate when they looked at her. Some even muttered that the girl was a curse, that danger followed her like a shadow. But none dared act while the soldier stood beside her. His presence was the only wall between her and their anger. Then it began. The first sound was a whistle in the air, sharp and deadly. A blast struck the ground near the camp, sending fire and dirt into the sky. The humans shouted, weapons ready, as shapes appeared in the dark. Raiders, dozens of them. Their armor glowed faintly, their weapons flashing with red light. The girl froze, her body trembling. Memories of fire and screams filled her mind. It was her village all over again. She wanted to run, to hide, to vanish. But then she saw the soldier. He stood tall, weapon in hand, his voice steady as he commanded his people. "Hold the line. Do not break." The raiders charged. Blades clashed. Energy bolts burned through the night, and the camp turned into chaos. The girl crouched near the fire, covering her ears, her breath sharp and fast. Fear gripped her like chains. Then she saw him fall. The soldier fought with all his strength, but the enemy pressed hard. One raider's blade cut across his side, and he stumbled to the ground. The girl's heart stopped. Without him, she would be lost. Without him, she would be nothing. Something inside her broke. For the first time since the war began, she refused to run. She grabbed a broken piece of metal from the ground, her small hands shaking, and rushed forward. The soldier raised his weapon again, but another raider was already above him, ready to strike the final blow. The girl screamed and threw herself at the raider, slamming the piece of metal against his arm. The strike was weak, but it was enough. The raider turned, surprised, and the soldier rose with sudden strength, driving his weapon through the enemy's chest. The girl fell to the ground, her hands cut and bleeding. The soldier caught her before she could collapse. His voice was sharp, but his eyes burned with something new. "You should have run," he said. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. "Not this time. I will not leave you." More raiders pressed in. The soldier pulled her behind him, his weapon striking again and again. But this time, she helped. She shouted warnings, pointed out attackers in the dark, and even used her small piece of metal to drive back those who came too close. Together, they fought like one. The battle raged until the first light of dawn. Bodies of raiders lay scattered across the ruins. The human camp was wounded, but it still stood. And in the center of it all were the soldier and the girl, side by side, their clothes torn, their faces marked with ash and blood, but alive. The other humans stared in silence. They had seen her fight, seen her refuse to run. They could no longer call her only a curse. They could no longer deny that she had stood with them when the fire came. The soldier placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was low but strong. "You are braver than you know." The girl looked at him, her tears drying in the rising sun. "You gave me courage," she whispered. News of the battle spread quickly. Word reached beyond the camp, carried by whispers and rumors. They spoke of the alien child who had fought beside a human soldier, of the protector who would not let her fall, and of the bond that had turned enemies into something else. For the first time, the girl felt that her fate was no longer written in ashes. For the first time, she felt she had a place. But she also knew the danger was not over. The raiders would return. The Council of Humans would not stay silent. And, somewhere beyond the smoke, her own people would hear of what she had done. She had chosen to stand beside a human. The galaxy would never forget that choice. The battle with the raiders had ended, but the camp was not quiet. Smoke still rose from the burned ground, and the air carried the sharp smell of blood and fire. The humans moved among the ruins, counting the lost, gathering what little could be saved. Some were wounded, some were dead, but the camp still stood. The girl sat beside the soldier. Her hands were cut, her arms bruised, but her eyes were alive. For the first time since her world had fallen, she did not feel like a victim. She had fought, she had chosen to stand, and she had survived. The other humans looked at her differently now. Their eyes still carried mistrust, but beneath it was something new, respect. They had seen her refuse to run. They had seen her fight beside the man they followed. They could no longer call her only a curse, but whispers spread quickly. Some feared what her presence meant. "She is still alien blood," they said. "Her kind will never be ours." Others argued that she had earned a place, that any who stood in fire with them was worth keeping. The camp was divided, and in the center of it all was her fate. The soldier knew it. He stood before the leaders of his unit, his voice steady, his back straight. "She stays," he said. The leaders frowned. "You risk too much. The war has burned bridges between us and her kind. To keep her is to invite betrayal." "She fought for us," the soldier answered. "She saved my life. If she was enemy, she would have run. Instead, she stayed." Silence followed. None could deny the truth of his words, yet none wished to accept them. The leaders turned away, unwilling to make the choice themselves. The decision fell to him alone, the man who had shielded her first. That night, he sat with her by the fire. She looked at him, her small frame wrapped in the cloak he had given. Her voice was quiet, but steady. "Will they make me leave?" He looked into the flames. "They might. But if they do, I will not let you go alone." Her eyes widened. "You would come with me?" His gaze turned to hers. "I said I would protect you. That promise does not end here." Her heart ached at his words. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever chosen her, not when she had nothing to give in return. The days passed, and word of the child who stood with a human spread beyond the camp. Other survivors heard of it. Other humans whispered about it. And beyond the ruins, in places she could not see, her own people began to hear the story as well. A dangerous story. A hopeful story. One evening, as the sun sank low, she sat beside him and asked the question that weighed on her chest. "If I go back to my people, what will happen?" He answered without pause. "They may not forgive you. They may call you traitor. They may not understand why you fought beside me." Her voice shook. "And if I stay with you? They may never accept you fully. You will always walk between worlds. My people will question you, mistrust you, perhaps even hate you. But with me, you will never be alone." The choice cut deep. To return meant facing rejection from her own blood. To stay meant carrying the weight of being different forever. Both paths were heavy. Both paths were dangerous. She looked at the soldier. His armor was scratched, his body marked by scars. But his presence was unshaken. He had been her shield when she had nothing. He had stood against his own people for her. He had chosen kindness when the galaxy had given her only cruelty. Her voice was quiet, but sure. "I will stay." The soldier gave a slow nod. He did not smile, but his eyes softened, with something close to relief. The camp heard her decision. Some accepted it, some cursed it, but none could deny the truth. Her fate had changed. She was no longer the child left with nothing. She was no longer only a victim of war. She was something new. By fire and blood, she had found a place. By human kindness, she had found hope. The galaxy would not forget this story. Whispers would carry it far, that an alien child once walked beside a human soldier, not as prisoner, not as enemy, but as chosen family. Some would fear it, some would hate it, but others would wonder if kindness was stronger than war, and as the stars returned above the ruins, she wrapped the cloak tighter around her and whispered to herself the words that had carried her through the dark. "I am not alone.